Our next presenter is an anthropologist and the director of one of the founding member centers of NCRW, the Pembroke Center for Teaching and Research on Women at Brown University. Kay Warren is also professor of international studies and anthropology at Brown. She's a distinguished and imaginative scholar whose work ranges from international norms and legal systems to community responses to violence and human trafficking. Kay Warren is an intellectual powerhouse whose work continues to astonish. Please welcome Kay Warren.
Thank you very much. What a pleasure it is to be able to introduce Ruth Simmons. President Ruth Simmons stands out as a powerful and charismatic leader in American higher education. She is one of the few university presidents who is simply adored and respected by all the students. Her leadership at Princeton, Smith, and Brown, and now Brown, has involved a relentless drive to transform institutions from within by promoting educational environments that value student diversity in terms of gender, class, race, sexuality, nationality, areas of academic interest. Students find themselves thoroughly involved in their educations at Brown. They see their president as someone who is there for them in their diversity. Ruth's commitment to equity in education and to need-blind admissions has made this diversity possible. Ruth has been enormously successful in reaching out internationally to promote new teaching and research partnerships across world regions. She has called on universities to be sites of creativity and collaboration on issues of joint interest across the disciplines, not only in the sciences, but also in the humanities and the social sciences. Through these efforts, she makes it possible for our diverse community to work in new and intellectually exciting ways across the globe. I can tell you as a faculty member, this is extraordinary, this challenge. I'm going to suddenly be working in China. I'm going to be lecturing in China. And it's all partly due to Ruth's fabulous mission, fabulous vision for higher education. Who did I seek out 3 decades ago when, as the young founding director of the Women's Studies program at Princeton, and I have to add as a grad alum, I faced some pretty serious challenges from an institution which, at that point, was uncertain about how much intellectual and social diversity it needed. Luckily, I ran into Ruth. In fact, I sought her out for her vision and integrity. I invite all of you to celebrate how much our institutions have changed over the last decades as a result of courageous leaders like Ruth. On behalf of the National Council for Research on Women, it is a wonderful pleasure to present Ruth Simmons with this great honor. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kay. But you didn't have to mention those 3 decades ago. Thank you. And of course, you know, on occasion we get to come to events like this, and it feels like a bit of a homecoming to me to be with all of you wonderful people who share the same values, who are searching for the same result, who are working assiduously to make it possible for the next generation to enjoy the benefits of equality and access. And it just feels wonderful to be here. Thank you for having me. Let me say how honored I am to be among this distinguished group of honorees whose efforts have influenced women and girls around the world. Not enough can be said about the power of examples for girls contemplating their future. When I was an exchange student at Wellesley College in 1965-66, I was struck by the achievements of Margaret Clapp, the president of Wellesley at the time. And it was not until that first direct encounter with women's leadership that I began to understand the potential reach and impact of my own intelligence and skills on the communities that I imagined serving one day. The recognition of their power and importance by girls is the ingredient needed to lift dramatically the prospects of thousands of communities around the world. That cannot occur, of course, without a framework for changing age-old biases and removing limitations imposed on women's freedoms, abilities, and aspirations. While it's good and proper to celebrate the cracks in this glass ceiling created to date by so many outstanding women firsts, we must not lose sight of the great distance yet to travel in our effort to see full equality for women around the world. The research and advocacy carried out by the National Council for Research on Women is fundamental to casting light on this issue. NCRW's commitment to applying research findings to drive social change, promote progress, and inform policy has been absolutely critical in numerous national policy debates around equity and inclusion of women and girls. We were talking earlier tonight about the fact that our country is in such a dangerous moment right now. There are very tough decisions that we have to make as communities. And yet, if we don't pay strict attention to what we're doing, we can destroy a lot of what we've built up over the years. We have to be very careful. Through the action of many across the decades, casting light on inequities, pushing for the elimination of discriminatory practices, creating programs to inspire girls and women to reach higher, significant change has come to the academy and to many other sectors. Perhaps the single biggest change to date has been in the participation of women in education. Today, well over half the students enrolled in U.S. higher education are women. That demonstrates, I think, in powerful ways how research can cast light on unjust practices and, working in conjunction with advocacy and policymaking, bring about truly meaningful change. In that regard, I also want to acknowledge Brown's Pembroke Center for Teaching and Research on Women. That must be they over there. I was looking for you. This is part of NCRW's network of research, policy, and advocacy centers. Founded 25 years ago, the Pembroke Center has focused on the complexity of difference, which includes gender studies, race and ethnicity, multiculturalism, post-colonial studies, and other forms of difference. The brilliant work of this center, along with the ardent support of its advocates, some of whom are here tonight, has contributed much to our university and to the nation. The fact that half of Ivy League universities today are led by women and that other great world institutions are also impacted by women's leadership should not lead us to think that the work of equality for girls and women is done. Indeed, the increasing diversity of world cultures suggests that this work is really just beginning. Institutions involved in exposing the facts of inequality will need to broaden their research and collaboration to encompass the greater complexity of the task before us. We were saying, some of us this afternoon when we had a program on these gender issues, that actually for those of us who are minorities, this issue of women's equality is somewhat fraught. If you look at the issue of Hispanic women coming on very forcefully around the country in terms of numbers, and if you look at the ratio at which they're able to graduate from high school and enter college, one has to be concerned. We need to, as a community, be thinking about that, to own that, work to do the same thing that we've done with other groups before. As a relatively new As a relatively new grandmother, this question has even greater personal resonance for me. As I think about my 3-year-old granddaughter, Samara, perfect, precious, as I think about what she might face as a world citizen, I'm relieved to think that the continued work of NCRW will help to ensure full equality for her communities, and the generations to come. Again, thank you so much for this honor. I dedicate it to the memory of Margaret Clapp in gratitude for the aspirations awakened in me 46 years ago by a glimpse of her leadership. Thank you very much.